Becky, you mentioned about the safety bit. This is a question for Tom, actually. You mentioned going off the line to lay the lights. How does that work in a photography situation? Because that's one of the protocols, really.
Yeah, people often hire me to take photos of them cave diving. Often it's new, fairly new cave divers. They might finish their course. They want images to celebrate finishing their cave diving course. So I try to keep, my protocols are basically to try and keep the cave dive for them as normal as possible. So when they are swimming in to the cave, I don't turn them around. I'm the one that turns around. So when they're swimming in, they're always swimming into the cave. When we turn the dive, then they're swimming out. So they always know which way is out. And I'm the one that's ahead, and I will turn around and take pictures of them. And as I mentioned, I don't go off the line. I don't position them off the line. I don't ask them to turn around. When I'm diving with more experienced people, locals that know the caves, then I'm a little bit more comfortable with placing lights. We'll put a marker down and agree on which way is the exit before we do anything. And then the team stays on the line and watches me, or I will run a reel and very carefully go and place the lights. But safety is our number one priority, and a very close second is conservation. So we want to be very careful when we're placing lights in the cave, that we're not damaging anything, we're not leaving a mark in the silt, or anything like that. Thank you.
I'm glad I wasn't asked that question.
Okay, more questions?
I have one for Becky. Becky, you said, amazing story, amazing presentation by all of you.
There were no fish
very
in there,
inspiring.
sorry.
No fish,
No
yeah,
fish.
I noticed that. You said you started very young, a long time ago, and we all know that tech diving still is a very male-dominated activity. Can you give us examples of challenges that we find and how you navigate that in the past and today?
Yeah, I actually, because I started so young, I actually found age was more of a limiting factor for me than being a woman most of the time. And I'll be honest with you, I think being a female in a male-dominated sport has allowed me to stand out more than be pushed down. So I've always found that I've gotten really amazing support from my male instructors or my teams. I do have female members of my dive teams when I do shoots, but usually they are males, and they listen well and we work well together. And same thing when I'm teaching classes. I teach rebreathers to military, and I honestly don't usually end up having many issues, which I think is a really good thing. Usually it's a lot of respect. I've worked hard to gain it, so.
I'd like to just say some of the best cave divers I know are women. Mm-hmm. Some of the best cave diving instructors, some of the best cave explorers.
Nice.
More questions for you?
Nuno, I love the story with the pilot fish or the guide fish. Is there any benefit to the schooling fish at all, or is it just that the whale shark is lurking and waiting to steal the food?
That's a good question that we couldn't answer in the documentary. We could speculate a bit about it, but the truth is, especially tuna have the natural instinct of aggregating underneath stuff. Anything that's floating in the ocean, you'll usually find tuna fish. If it's an abandoned container that fell off a ship or something. So they have a tendency to aggregate on slow-moving or static things. So that might be part of the equation. Another maybe potential answer might be that the whale shark is actually better at detecting the bait balls than the tuna. So what it looked to us is the tuna never found the bait balls. It would always be the whale shark that would find it, and then he would stop and let the guys go work, and then when they were cornered, come in and suck the bait balls. But that is a good question that we would like to have been able to answer on the documentary that we weren't able to answer. Yeah.
Michael?
Pete, I wanted to ask you, great presentation, all of you, I mean, it was magnificent presentations. Caves, I know you started in Rex, you transitioned to caves. Is there any major differences or uniquenesses in trying to do adaptive lighting and what you're doing in one of the others? One harder than the other? Or, yeah. Just
Well, I
the
think
comparison.
sort of you can still like being in a cave is quite easy because then you can manage 100% of the lighting. So again, the hardest thing for me is to get the right frame, and you just got to have a look around. You know, you got to have a really good look around and see where where the best frame's going to be, and then after that you just get started. You know, and then just have some fun.
I have one more question, actually, for Nuno and Beck. Well, you weren't featuring all the animal stuff in your presentation, but you had some, and you, of course, did. How do you know how close to get, what you can get away with in working with these huge, big animals? Yeah.
I was talking to Becky about that because she told me she did the walrus, and walrus is #1 in my never do list. I have a very short things that I never want to shoot, and walrus was #1. So maybe you can tell us how you made those shots.
I mean, like long story short, for me, it's all about studying the animal. I mean, I'm not a marine biologist, but I grew up, in the ocean and definitely studying animals and their behavior. And I think it's very important to understand the behaviors of any animal that you're trying to shoot. So doing research ahead of time or spending time with them. That was my 7th trip to the Arctic, and the only time I'd gotten walrus. And it was specifically for walrus, but very challenging animal to get. But same thing with like the leopard seals in Antarctica. They are an apex predator. They can be dangerous. They've known to kill somebody, just I think one person, but
A lady.
yeah, a lady, yes, a lady 20 years ago. But again, so we're just watching them, and similar to sharks, you're watching for the behavior and their arching or the mouth open, blowing bubbles, and then you get out of the water when you start to feel like it's aggressive. But I think reading the animal and being respectful of the animal and I don't think anybody here is the type of photographer to just go shove a camera in an animal's face. We like to observe them and try to get more natural behaviors as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, my God, we are so late, but it's so hard to stop listening to these incredible discussions and your presentations today. They were really, 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 all of them were really great. So thank you very much. We'll be here tomorrow and we will start a little bit later. So tomorrow, 9:30 for the second day of the diving talks. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Good luck.